every parent's worst nightmare is to be in a position where they have to bury their child instead of the child having to bury them. It's a situation that breaks the hearts of each parent, and it's something that I don't even wish for an enemy, because the pain that it comes with, I can only imagine. But for those who have lived with it, I'm sure they will tell a story much more painful than any of us can ever imagine. So, this was the unfortunate encounter that parents of a 1 year old boy in the United States of America had to endure just over a week ago after he overdosed after ingesting fentanyl whilst he was in his own daycare. This case is an evolving case, and the details will shock you. It occurred at Bronx, New York, just last week Friday, that is the 15th of September 2023, and it begins to put into perspective the question of how safe children are when they are actually in environments which are deemed to be safe, i.e., daycares and schools. Because this kid suffered this fate whilst in school after his parents had dropped him off at this school or this daycare. It turns out that some way, somehow, through some strange means, there was fentanyl on the premises of the school. And this 1 year old boy would ingest it, and unfortunately, he suffers a cardiac arrest and lost the battle fighting for his life. Today's true crime story is one that hits me deeply, especially because I'm also a parent and I can feel what these parents of this 1 year old boy are probably going through. If you're ready for this true crime story, let's jump in. Now, as is expected, most parents, especially in these modern times, are either working and schooling and parenting, or at least are working and parenting. And usually this cuts both ways for both the man and his wife. So most often you'd find that children these days go to school very early. They might start from a daycare where the parents would be able to leave them there so they can also go and put in the grind and get some money so they can try to further their lot. This has become a normal trend. So it was no surprise when Zoila Dominici, a mother of 5 who also works as a caregiver, and her husband, Otoniel Feliz, decided that they were going to enroll their 1 year old son, Nicholas Feliz Dominici, in a daycare center called the Divino Nino Daycare Center at Bronx, New York. This was a normal thing, like I said. They are not the first couple to do so. A lot of people I know, even here in Ghana, do same. It's a normal trend due to how social dynamics have evolved. But little did they know that they were actually enrolling their son at an institution that will put him in a very risky environment, which will end up costing him his life. Because just 1 week after he had enrolled at that school, he ended up ingesting a dose of fentanyl, which was some way, somehow on the premises of that institution, and he had a cardiac arrest along with other 3 classmates of his. And unfortunately for him, he lost the battle fighting for his life, whilst the other 3 kids are in critical condition and on an admission at the hospital. So questions are raging. The police have come in, and of course, they would have to put questions to the owner. It turns out that the owner is a woman by name Gri Mendez de Ventura. She is 36 years old and she is the owner of the daycare. But she wasn't alone during the time of the arrest. Along with her was another man by name Callisto Acevedo Brito, who is 41 years old. It turns out that Callisto is the cousin of Gria Mendez de Ventura's husband. So then the question is, then where is the husband himself? That is where it also even gets dicier, because it turns out that when these kids started showing signs of complications with their health after ingesting the fentanyl, Gray Mendez didn't call 911 initially. She rather called her husband, who was then seen on camera exiting through the back exit with 2 bags of a substance suspected to be drugs. It was after this that Gria Mendez de Ventura went on to call 911. I'll come to that because I feel that time gap or that difference, that waiting time that she conveniently created for herself before calling 911 could have made a difference in saving the life of Nicholas Dominici, because kids' health are in danger. You can see their healths are failing. Why don't you call 911 first? That is the first thing to do. These are defenseless children. They don't even know what to do in such situations. You are the owner of the daycare. They have been entrusted to you. If you are a serious person and if you have any form of empathy, the first thing you would have done was to call 911 whilst even trying to administer some first aid, which I doubt she even knows how to. So this husband of hers was seen on camera exiting through the back door with 2 bags of some substances suspected to be drugs and has since been on the run. He's actually being hunted down by the police. But as at the time of making this video, the owner of the Divino Nino Daycare Center, Gria Mendez de Ventura, and the cousin of her husband, Callisto Acevedo Brito, have both been arrested whilst her husband is on the run. Now, it turns out that the school is legally registered. They actually had an inspection done on them just a week before this incident. But then they are listed as only being a daycare center. But then it turns out they are also providing rent services to none other than the cousin of the owner's husband. And per the suspicion of the police, it seems that rental portion of the building, which is at the basement of the daycare center, is what is being suspected to have been used as the drug den, in which case some found its way into the daycare center itself. I think that it goes beyond that drug den. Honestly, I think the handling of the drugs goes beyond the basement. I think that the whole institution was a front. I think the daycare was a front. They had a capacity of about 8 kids. This is not me trying to attack a new business, but if it's a new business which has made it its mandate to take care of children during the day, as in a daycare for vulnerable children, the youngest in that school was about 6 weeks old. Now, if you've taken it upon yourself to take custody of people's children as young and vulnerable as this, and you are able to allow fentanyl onto your premises, nothing can convince me that the whole setup of the institution wasn't a front. Because if it wasn't, you wouldn't have all these risks around there. And when the case broke and police came, you could see that the place was very poorly kept in terms of hygiene. Now, according to Nicholas's mom, the school was recommended to their family by the community center. So the recommendation was like, oh, these guys are good, they are compliant, blah, 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 blah. And this is where I'll chip in my 2 cents again. For me, the recommendation can come through, but trust you me, I'll do my own checks, and I'll do those checks as if I already believe there's something they are hiding. Because one thing I've noticed is sometimes if you go off with just the recommendation, someone might pass on their mistake to you. Someone might genuinely have been convinced or manipulated to believe that what they are recommending to you is genuine. So if you also don't do your checks yourself to have a second opinion or to at least confirm the veracity of that recommendation, you might actually be jumping into a risk. And at a point like this, all the person who recommended would say would be sorry. This is not me trying to blame the parents. This is just me trying to put this educative approach out there. Always confirm. Do not assume. A very trusted friend I have told me that it's funny though, but he said, anytime you assume, you make an ass of you and me. You get it? Assume. Ass, you, me. So every time it's important that you confirm for yourself. Nothing it's lost, or you don't lose anything just confirming if the 1 + 1 was actually 2. Some people might say you are paranoid. Don't let it bother you. For you, the most important thing is that your kid is safe. Now, it turns out that the parents of Nicholas Dominici actually did this. They tried doing this. They were allowed into the premises the first time. So they saw how things were going, and they saw that this daycare had actually been registered under Bronx Departments of Children and Family Service, the DCFS. So hardly would you think there could be something wrong. But you see, this is where intuition comes in. And I'm not blaming them still. All I'm saying is, when we find ourselves in spaces or institutions where they are flashing certificates of recognition or compliance, we should move behind the certificate we are seeing, or we should move beyond the certificate or whatever permit we are seeing and look at what is actually happening there. Now, the parents of Nicholas did this. Kudos to them. They did this. But then they were not allowed to go into the institution again after they were allowed to go in on the first day that Nicholas was going to commence his stay at that daycare. And I think that is where it's a red flag, because if I bring my kid to your daycare and you tell me that you're only going to allow me in on the first day so I see how things are like there, but then you will not allow me in there again, I will have an issue with you. And to hell with what any other person would think or suggest. Because I don't understand why I can go in the first time and see what is there, but I can't go in at any other time again and see what is still there. What if everything you put up was just to put up a front or a show, so you convince me and take my money and then expose my kid to risks? And these are some of the things. I think that sometimes, in as much as the world is evolving, we just need to make sure our natural instincts are still sharp, because people are learning how to speak well, people are learning how to manipulate perception, and people are learning how to pass off evil as good, fake as original, lies as authentic. And the more we lose touch with our inner instincts, the more we become susceptible to being victims of such people. This is not me blaming the parents again, like I said. It's just an advice I'm putting out there. If you go and they show you certificates and other stuff, go and check the substance of what goes on there every day. If anything feels wrong, don't subscribe to their service. Just leave. You have that power, and that power can save your kid. Now, the owner of the daycare, Gray Mendas de Ventura, was then arrested after this happened, because she called 911. They came there. The police also came in. They were administering Narcan. Narcan, if you are aware of it, is something that is used as a drug to try and counter the effects of fentanyl. So they administered it on the 4 kids. One of them started responding positively, but the other 3 were still in critical condition, including Nicholas Feliz Dominici. And all 4 were rushed to the hospital. But then Once fentanyl had been discovered on the daycare premises, straightforward, that was a crime. So the owner was picked up by the police. She was arrested. And next to be arrested was the cousin of her husband, Callisto Acevedo Brito. And now they are both being held without bail. I would say good riddance. I know in law they are presumed innocent until proven guilty, but still, I would say good riddance. Now, the other 3 children who were affected by the fentanyl are also still at the hospital, although they are still alive. And I think that it's very heartbreaking if you're a parent for you to receive a call that your child has gone through something at school and he or she is at the hospital, only for you to follow up and the hospital tells you that unfortunately your kid is lost. So this is the case as it's unraveling, and I'm following this case, and you will see updates coming as and when they are due. I'm tracking this case, and the next chapter I'll be doing, or the next update would be the charges that have been leveled against the owner and the cousin of her husband who have been arrested. Because we need to find justice, or we need to get justice for the 1-year-old beautiful soul that has been lost in the person of Nicholas Dominici. You don't just set up schools like this. And you see, I don't blame whoever recommended them. I think that they might have been manipulated to believe these guys are very compliant. I also don't blame the DCFS in any way, because I don't know much about when they do their schedule checks and all, but it turns out they were registered with them. They knew them as well. So it means that they had presented all the right things for the DCFS to give the green light. And then again, that is the red flag. It means that they know what to do, but they decide that they will do it for show to get what they want, and afterwards they will stop doing it. Because if you look at how poorly kept the premises of the daycare was when the police came in, you would begin to wonder if this was the same situation that they showed the parents of Nicholas Dominici on the first day that he was to start at that daycare. I don't think that was it. I think they put up a very beautiful, well-kept, clean, tidy place, free of any forms of risk, and that probably convinced the parents to enroll their kid there. And the annoying thing is they actually even had to be on a waiting list. So people really patronize these guys to the extent there's actually a waiting list only for them to do this. And especially since the owner is also a woman. I wouldn't be surprised she's a mother too. Even if she's not a mother yet, being a woman is enough to have empathy, a unique sympathy and empathy for children, such that you should be the one even protecting them aside their parents' protection as well. But she some way, somehow seems or is alleged or looks culpable in allowing fentanyl onto the premises with these kids there. And I think that this case is going to unravel a lot of things, because already her husband is on the run. Where is he going? What did he take in those bags that he took away? Who is the dealer? Who is their supplier? Who is the plug? Who are the distributors? Who cuts these things up? Because a lot of other equipments were also found. Equipments used to press and cut these things down were also found. And to the extent that it's been infused with the running of the daycare, I think that this is a level of evil that I'm yet to appreciate on a crazy level, because I don't understand why somebody will be so greedy for money, or a group of people will be so greedy for money, they don't care risking the lives of kids who are so vulnerable. 6-week-old kids, 1-year-old kids, kids who can't even defend themselves or make a decision to leave a place. You keep them there, you take money from their parents for keeping them there, and you expose them to fentanyl. This is a very crazy case, and the security agencies who are working it shared the same sentiment. because the passing of a kid is a very heavy thing. And I'm waiting to see the defense these guys will put up, because I don't see anything that will fly. And in this case, a kid has already lost his life. There are 3 fighting for their lives, and I'm hoping that they will survive. My heart goes out to the parents of Nicholas Dominici, and the parents of the other kids as well. I pray that they find the strength to move on. But I pray that these guys get the stiffest charges leveled against them, and the prosecution successfully gets a conviction for all those charges, and they face the maximum sentence. Like I said, I'll bring an update on this video or on this case as and when they are due. But what do you think went wrong? Let me know in the comment section. Let's have a conversation. If you're a parent, tell me how you feel going through this case as a parent as well. Like I've been saying, keep an eye out. A little bit of paranoid can make a positive difference for you. I'll catch you next time. Stay safe.